Hello and welcome to LevelUP. This is our Python series where Angus is going to teach you the basics of coding in Python. Enjoy!
Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to our Intro to Python series here. So we've learned a lot up until this point. We've learned how to do print statements, if statements, and we've gotten inputs from users and created variables. So now we're going to introduce another core concept of programming called loops. So if you've ever done any Scratch before or any other programming whatsoever, you might be familiar with this concept, but loops, just as it says in the name, they allow us to repeat code either a certain number of times or until like a condition is met. So we're going to split this big concept into two sub-concepts. One's called fixed loops and one called conditional loops. And fixed loops, we'll go into more depth of what each of them do later, but fixed loops allow us to run code a certain number of times, fixed, and conditional loops allow us to run code until a condition is met, so that's why they're called conditional. So we'll start with fixed loop here, and in Python they're fixed loops, but they're also called for loops. You can use those names interchangeably, but I'm going to write some code out here. If you want to copy along with me. I'm just using repl.it here. If you want to use repl.it and copy exactly along, just go to this URL here, create an account, or if you're using your own code editor, just feel free to use that. So we're going to type out for I in range, and I'm just going to put 10 in here, and we'll put a colon here. I'm just going to type this code out and we'll talk through what it means afterwards. And the reason it's important that we have our colon here, because this basically says, just like if with our if statements in the previous few tutorials, anything that comes after this and is tabbed in will be run within this for loop. That's basically what's contained within it. And what I'm going to type here, we'll just type print as a nice way to show that this is working. So hello world, like that. Okay, so what have we got here? So this for here, this is, remember we called it a for loop. This basically says to Python, yo, we're gonna create a fixed loop here, and then this range here it basically says we want to repeat this, and then the number that's inside the brackets. So in this case, 10 times. So we're gonna say repeat whatever after this colon here, and is all tabbed in 10 times. Just ignore this part here for the minute. We'll cut. This is important. Know that it's important. We will come back to that though, and I'll show you what we can use this for, because it's quite cool, I think. So we're just going to repeat this. So if you hit run, as you can imagine, we're going to get this displayed 10 times. There we go. See, 10 times out here to the console. And we can change this if we wanted to set this to say 20. We could run that, and we get 20. We could even set this up to something ridiculous like, I don't know, that's probably way past 1 billion there, but you know, some big number. I'm not going to run that because I'd rather not clog up my console over here, so we'll just set it back to 10. And we can also do other things, like if you remember, maybe we want to ask a user for a whole bunch of numbers. If you remember from the last, a few tutorials ago, we can ask a user for, why don't we ask them for their name? We'll create a variable called name. If you remember, we type name and then use an equal sign to say we'll give it the value. And to ask for an input, we type input and then the message we want to display in here. So, what is your name? And we'll hit save and we'll run that. So, what is your name? Whoa, why is this in the way? Here we go. What is your name? I'll type Angus. And that's 1, 2, 3. I shouldn't have typed this out 10 times. This is going to take a while. 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Yeah, see? So it ran the same thing 10 times there. I misspelled my name a few times there. That's not great. And then we can also, what should we do? Yeah, let's print this. We'll type print it each time. And I'm just going to set that to 2 because I don't want to type my name out 10 times. And notice what happens here. So what is your name? I will first type out my name, Angus. And you can see we get Angus displayed. Now what do you think will happen this time? We've ran it once, and it's gone back and saying, oh, we want to run it 2 times, but we've only run it once times, so we're gonna run it again. We're gonna input our name. It's gonna be assigned to this variable, and what do you think will get displayed out here? I'm going to type Murray here, and you can see we get Murray because this variable is overwritten with this new name that we've inputted. Cool. So I'm just going to delete this code here. And if you remember, this variable that I told you to ignore here, basically what this does is every time that this loop runs, this I here, we could technically call this ever. We could call it y, we could call it variable, but I'll call it I. It's a nice number. Number is a nice letter. Sorry, my brain's going to mush. And it assigns what iteration of the loop it's on. So I'm just going to type it out here. So remember, I'll just print I. And we'll say 10. I think it's easier if I just show it like this rather than me trying to talk about it. And you can see, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 through 9. We'll talk about 0 in a second, but it just stores what iteration of the loop we're on. You can see the first time we print it, we're at 0. The second time, we're at 1, 2. And it's important to know that this starts at 0. Once we start looking at things down the line like lists and arrays, those are probably meaningless words to you at this stage, but they will come apparent later when you get more advanced with coding. But this is incredibly useful. But just know for now that ranges start at 0. That's what it is. And it goes up to not including 10, so that's why 9's there. Cool. Okay. So that's for loops. Fixed loops there allow us to run stuff a certain number of times, like you've seen there. If you want to have a mess around with those, pause the video here and play with some stuff. Create some loops, different ranges, run some code, see what you can do with them. And then when we come back, we'll have some practice with some while loops and some conditional loops. Alright, I hope you had some fun there with some loops. And now we're going to try some while loops. So these allow us to run codes whilst a condition is true. So we'll need to create a variable first. I'm going to just say, let's say my number. So we're creating a variable called my number here, and we're going to say equals to give it the value. I'm just going to give it an arbitrary number of 0. And now remember with our for loops we had that special keyword for, but with while loops, well, we can type while. That's our keyword that basically says we're going to create a while loop. And I'll just say while my number is less than 10, we'll just print, we'll print hello world. And this is basically exactly the same as what we had, I can't type, but exactly the same as what we had last time. Oops, nope, I forgot a key part, and we also need to do my number equals my number plus 1. So what this is going to do is just add 1 to our counter each time. So I'll run this and we'll talk through it. So you can see, just like last time, we get hello world displayed 10 times. So what this does is it initially sets my number to 0. We're familiar with that. We've created a variable called my number and give that number 0. And this while loop basically, every time that this loop runs, it checks whether my number, this variable here, is less than 10. So initially, my number is 0. That 0 is less than 10, so that's true. So it runs what's here. It prints hello world, like you see here. And then this here, this adds 1 to my number. So my number is now 1. Goes back up here, checks my number. 1 is still less than 10. Runs that. Adds 1. Goes back up. 2 is less than 10. And so on, up to when it gets to 10. 10 is not less than 10. So it just stops and ends. So if we were to print my number at the end here, we can see there'll be 10 because we've added 1 at the end here. See if we get 10. So this is cool. We can use this to just run anything until any condition is met, which is quite cool. What we're going to try and work up towards is building a project where, like a higher or lower game, so the computer will generate a random number and you'll have to guess it, and we can use while loops to do that. So we're going to use a few more examples before we get to that. But that's what we're going to work towards. I like to have a goal when I'm working, so if that helps you out, that's what we're going to try to work towards. So what else can we do with while loops? Actually, I'm going to undo that. We can also, I'll just show you, we don't actually have to add one each time. What we can also do is, well, we can also make that, again, just like a for loop, make that 20. And we can display it 20 times, 100 times, 100 hello worlds there. I'll just set that back to 10. We can also add 2 here. This is where we can start differentiating a bit from for loops. We can add like 2's here. You could technically do this with a for loop, but it's a bit more advanced at this stage. But you see, we only get 5 because each time it's adding 2. And we can print my number here just instead of hello world, just so you can see what's going on here. See, we get 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and then that'll be 10, and 10 is less than 10, so it stops the loop. Okay, so if you're happy with that, if you want to go away and try some while loops, play about with what you can do, feel free, scrub back in the video, rewatch stuff if you don't get it, and just try and understand what loops are and see if you can figure out ways that we might apply it. And when we come back, we're going to build that game that we talked about. We'll make a higher or lower game. So go away and try that now.
That's it for this video. Check out our channels for some more tutorials from Angus on Python. Join us next time. Bye.